All right, so we covered it till here in the last class. We discussed a lot of things in last session, and I hope you guys got a good feeler of some of the fundamentals related to this PMP course. And today we will see and we will continue with this section that remained from last week. And now we will see that we talked last week. We talked about the business strategy, how the vision, mission trickles down to the portfolios, to the programs, and then we come to the project part. And before initiating any project or before approving any project, there are certain things that organizations do, which we can take as a pre-project or pre-project initiation activities, where they conduct maybe feasibility analysis. Echo coming from somewhere. They do some feasibility analysis. They which includes your capability or capacity, whether you are capable enough or you have the capacity to move forward with that kind of initiative. You do financial analysis, like whether it will be a beneficial cause or not. So there are some pre-project or pre-initiation activities that companies carry on, and then they move forward with the approval process and then the final authorization of the project. And this is how we can see it, that the pre-project initiation work can have your need assessment, which we can see as take it as a feasibility as well, which we talked about earlier, whether you are capable of doing the project or not. And based on that feasibility, uh, uh, business case is prepared, which is you can say which is your economic feasibility, whether it is beneficial, economically beneficial to do the project. And then you also have your benefits management plan. We will see about all these documents in a while. And then after you do the feasibility, if it is feasible, then you prepare the business case, you present it for the management approval, and once you have the approval for the business case aligned with your benefit management plan, then you have your project charter ready, which formally authorizes the start of your project. And then obviously you move with making your project plans, and then you start delivering your project. So what is need assessment? Need assessment is a, you can say it is a feasibility, which we talked about in last session as well, that you have a current state, and you have a desired state in mind or in plan. So how to move forward to you see a current state, you have some gaps, you see some gaps are there that you need to cover or fill to move to your desired state. And to move to that desired state, yeah, we carry out some feasibilities, or you can say it as a need assessment as well, that what you need to do to reach to that level that you are aspiring as an organization. And for that, we carrying out some feasibility studies. We may be gathering some stakeholder requirements. What are the requirements? We will maybe defining what objective we are trying to achieve, what kind of a scope we will be carrying, and what kind of risks may be there, and whether whatever initiatives we are thinking about, whether they are aligned with our strategic goals or not. So this is what need assessment is all about. You identify the gaps and how you can what alternatives you can have to reach to that desired state. And there are some business documents after the need assessment or the feasibility. There are some business documents that you need to have that are developed prior to your project start, like we discussed about the business case and the benefits management plan. So business case is all about your, it is your a documented economic feasibility. By the, I hope, can anyone tell me, have you seen any business cases or prepared any business cases in your experience, whatever experience you have been through? Anyone?
Yes, I
Uh,
have worked on a business case, both the OBC and the FBC, for the implementation of IT solution for the health services.
Okay, so can you tell us? So I hope you will be already knowing that what things are part of a business case. Maybe you can share some uh, details about it. What is generally included in a business case?
Yeah, so I mean, in the business cases I've worked with, it begins with an understanding of what the current situation is, and equally identifying the problem that we're trying to resolve, and putting into context the approach that we're taking and the options that are made available, beginning from the default option of doing nothing, and of course the other options that are also being considered. The major risks are captured. The anticipated timeline or time scale for the delivery is captured in there. An investment appraisal is also included, uh, with an indication of the benefits that the project is actually trying to also achieve.
Okay, great, great. You covered a lot of things. Also, anyone else?
yes, Imran. From our side, we usually also develop business cases before proceeding to the project. And mainly, we do analysis whether the project is required and in which category it falls. Is it related to some business efficiency or customer experience, or is it going to give us some cost benefit as well? Uh, if it's a customer experience related, then obviously the ROI thing is not at our side, but we decide whether it's going to be helpful or not. And the whole data compilation, the whole analysis is based on that aspect. So basically, we don't make full-fledged or big kind of business cases, but the projects are of small scales, so the business cases are also not very high.
Okay, good. All right. So basically, it what is a business case? Business case is, as I said earlier, it's a documented economic feasibility, which we use to establish the validity of benefits that we are trying to achieve. Mostly, it is for the consumption of the management or the stakeholders who are going to obviously give you the support structure to carry on with that proposal. It's for their decision making, to support their decision making, whether they see it as a beneficial project for the organization or not. So it, as Olu and Beena summarized it, that it contains, it is a summary of the results from your feasibility study. Maybe before you had multiple options to do a certain kind of thing, and you did feasibility for those one, two, three options that you had. So summary of those results are also part of your business case. What are your reasons or objectives to uh, for the proposal of that project, and how you are going to measure success at the end of project? uh, what kind of business need is there for that project? uh, are there any risks that may be there going with that kind of project? And other things like obviously cost benefit analysis, and maybe some other financial aspects as well. What will be the IRR, which we call the internal rate of return? What will be the NPV? and things like that can also be part of the business case. You can also have your high level stakeholders are also mentioned, that what are your stakeholders that may be affected or benefited by your project, and a lot of other things can also be part of it, but again it will depend on the nature of the organization, how like Veena said that they prepare the business case in very brief kind of form, a very summarized, maybe one-page business cases, and some other companies preparing business cases at a holistic level. So all in all, what you need to know that it is an economic feasibility where you assess different options, you present to your stakeholders, high level stakeholders, for their consumption. If they see the benefit, then they and after if they approve your business case, so then you can move forward with your project. And obviously, business case will also be telling you that what kind of benefits you are trying to achieve. Some timeline should also be there. Benefits, timeline, what will be the timeline for in getting those benefits, and uh, maybe timeline, if it can be a high level or milestone level timeline, can also be included in your business case. What at what milestone you will be delivering the benefits to the organization, and obviously strategic need. What is strategic need is this is fulfilling. So there are a lot of things that can be part of your business case. So I hope you guys are with me till now, or you have anyone having any question, you please feel free to ask. So, and the other business document that we have is our benefits management plan. This tells us about the what kind of benefits we are trying to get from the proposal or from the project. Who will be benefiting, or who will be the benefits owner? What will be the time frame for realizing the benefits? How we are going to sustain those benefits? Maybe you need to uh, uh, as a part of your project, and to get properly get those benefits or getting value from the deliverable that you are delivering, you need to have some trainings in place for your operations team or your customers, uh, and how you are going to align all the structures, and maybe you as you move with your project, you maybe need to develop some documentation related to the, again that comes to the training part uh, of the operations team or the users who are going to use it. So benefit management plan will tell you uh, how you are going to sustain those benefits beyond or after the completion of your project. So as a project manager, your responsibility is to make sure that throughout the project life cycle, you need to make sure that you work closely with your sponsor or your main stakeholder who is giving you the resources for the project. That whatever you are doing during the course of the project, it remains aligned with your project charter and your benefits management plan. Uh, because if during the course of the project things change, maybe your benefits requirement change and you are not aligned with that, and then obviously it may not be beneficial to continue with your project. I think we discussed about this in last session as well. So this is what the business documents are. The two business documents, business case, and the second one is benefits management plan. Another thing that should be we should consider as we are going through as we are doing our project work. So one thing is very important. It is our lessons learned register. This is a document that we keep updating throughout our the course of our project, and it tells us about uh, we use the lesson learned register at the time of planning as well. The lesson learned register from previous projects or similar kind of projects, we can leverage them from our organization process and assets to plan better for our project. And during the course of our own project, we also get generate a lot of information, and that becomes part of our lessons learned register for our own project. What we did wrong, what went right, what we could have done differently. So that information becomes a part of our organization repository, and that then can become beneficial for the upcoming projects. So lessons learned register is a very important document that we as a project managers need to update and utilize from previous projects and update for our own project, because this is something that helps us or organization at a larger level. And before moving to the project before moving to or going for the project charter, there is one more thing. Since we are talking about fundamentals, so there are some other important topics or things that we need to know. Like till now we have talked about the lesson learned register, what are the EEF, what are OPAs, what is a business case, what is benefit management plan. So whenever we do some any project or any or we take any initiative, so we may have some assumptions. Uh, we assume something or we rely on some assumptions, and based on that, maybe those high level assumptions are included in our business case as well. So so we need to understand what is an assumption and few other things that I'll talk about in coming slides. By the way, anyone of you who can define that what is an assumption, what we call an assumption?
I
Anyone?
think assumption. Hello.
Yeah, yeah, yes.
I think assumption is something which can be used as a starting point for further uh, requirements.
Okay. Anyone else?
Uh, it can be something like risk or anything which can happen in future, or something which can occur between project life cycles.
Okay. All right. By the way, assumption and risk are two different things. This is why I have included these topics in the fundamentals, because it is very important to understand the difference between assumption and and a risk, and what is an issue, what is a constraint. This is what we will talk about in next 2 3 slides. So what is an assumption? Assumption is something that is believed to be true or accepted to be true unless otherwise it is proven wrong or otherwise. Like for say, we may assume for our project that I'll get the resources or the budget when I need them. So this may be an assumption that we have when we plan for our project. Similarly, another to give you another example, that if we are doing some, let's say, construction project, so we assume that during the, let's say, monsoon season, there will be rains. So this is another assumption that we could have for our project. So how and there may be a lot of other assumptions as well that we can have for our project. So it is always better to document, or what PMI suggests, that it is you should document all the assumptions in your assumption log before the starting of your project and during the course of your project. This is not a one-time activity; it's a continuous activity. You keep maybe like we talked about progressive elaboration. Uh, Anyone remembers we talked about progressive elaboration last week? What is progressive elaboration? Okay. So progressive elaboration, what we talked about, that you plan for the uh, cycle or the phase of your project that is upcoming. You plan for that in detail, and for the remaining phases you plan in at a higher level, and you keep doing it as we move from phase to phase. So maybe if we are planning for a phase and we have some assumptions, so obviously we need to update our assumption log, and we need to keep reviewing it whether our assumptions are still true, are still there, or whether something contrary happened to that. So this is what assumption log is about, and we need to continuously keep updating it as we move along with our project. So what is an assumption log? It contains a list of all the assumptions that we have identified, or maybe they have affected our project. Uh, and assumptions can be high level assumptions, as I talked about, that we can identify these in our business case, and later on we keep updating our assumption log as we move through our project. Uh, and high level assumptions can also be part of our project charter as well. And now we need to understand that what is the difference between an assumption, a fact, and a risk, because you may find some questions on this. Assumption we talked about already, that it is something that is believed to be true until unless it happens otherwise. Fact is something that is already proven. It's 100%, and you cannot obviously change it. Fact is something uh, like what we see, that we say that the our project has started on this date, or maybe there are some other facts that there are 7 wonders of the world, or say there are many other facts. So anything that is certain and 100% confirmed, that is a fact. Assumption we talked about earlier. So what is a risk? Risk is basically something that is uncertain, uh, and it may happen or may not happen. Uh, uh, Risk has a probability, and it has an impact. The higher the probability, we categorize that risk on a higher level, or maybe if it is a high impact, we foresee it as a high impact thing, then again we will classify it as a higher kind of risk. And risk can be positive or negative as well. Positive risks become an opportunity, negative risks become a threat. So risk is something that is uncertain, and it may or may not occur. And for that, for managing those risks, for assumption, how we manage our assumptions, because we keep monitoring them. We keep monitoring our assumptions, whether and is still our assumption is true or not. And if it our assumptions go otherwise, then obviously we need to do something about it. And for risks, we need some proactive kind of, we need to remain proactive. We need to identify the risks earlier. We need to have plans how we are going to address those risks, uh, and what kind of response planning should be there whenever that risk triggers. Who is going to be the risk owner, who is going to handle that risk. So we'll talk about risk in much detail once we go to the topic. So uh, this is what uh, uh, some differences that we need to know between, especially in assumption and risk. Are you guys clear on this, or you still have a confusion or any queries about this assumption risk?
If an assumption becomes false or the uh, required results are not achieved, then we have to change the assumption at the later stage, or what will we have to do?
Okay. So what do you think we should be doing here if an assumption is not is become has not turned out as we perceived it?
Mm, I think we should rework.
Okay. So yeah, you see, risk is something which we have already maybe we identified something as a risk and we have some plans for it. Okay. Someone do that. So, but assumption is something, and normally for assumption, we do not plan anything, or we do not plan too much about it. We assume something is there. Like I gave you the example that I will be having the budget or the resources when I need them. But if what and this is a very logical kind of question that maybe we are not going to get the budget or the resource when we need, although we had the assumption. So then what we need to do if something not is not has not happened as we assumed it, then we need to first we need to assess the impact, how since the assumption has gone invalid, so how it is going to impact our maybe scope, our schedule, and our overall delivery. And then we need to obviously react to it. Maybe we need to revise our project plans, or uh, maybe we need to engage the relevant stakeholders. Let's say, take an example that you are not getting the resource from your functional manager or from whatever, let's say from your vendor. So then what you need to do, you need to do something about it. Maybe you need to engage them, you need to collaborate with them, negotiate with them. And even if you do all the thing and still you see that you have it may affect your project plan, then obviously you need to communicate it to your stakeholders. You maybe need to modify your plans, and then you start monitoring it again. But in that case, that assumption has now become it has now become an issue for you, and now you are solving it in the form of an issue. Your assumption is gone wrong. You assessed it, and you after assessment you identified that it is a problem for your project. So anything that happens like this, it becomes an issue. It is something which is in your hand, and you need to resolve it as soon as possible to make sure that you remain aligned with your project goals. Is this okay?
Yes, okay. Just one query regarding assumption.
Mhm.
If hello, is my voice clear?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Regarding one query regarding assumption, we have the goals, we have the strategic plan. On based on that, we have done our assumptions for the complete project. If major assumptions have been distracted or it became an issue, so all the project feasibility which we had work upon, it will not be on stake. So first thing. So what my point is, assumption should be, at least we are saying, maybe the as per definition, assumption is the delivered to be the proof. So it is not that the assumption should be around 80 or 70 or 90% should be correct. Otherwise, if it is maybe proof, then it is not. It is either very difficult to deliver the project, because you have to do the costing again. You have to do the everything again.
Okay, am I audible?
Yes.
Yes. Now, no, you were saying.
Okay. Yes, very true. Obviously, the assumption is something. If you as the obvious as if you have assumed so many things unnecessarily, or you maybe you are uh, what I can say that if you have a you have been very liberal in your assumptions, then obviously things can go wrong there, as you have mentioned. But obviously, assumption something which should be something for which you will be taking help from your OPAs. You have the assumption list from similar previous kind of projects. You will be talking about to your stakeholders, maybe to you talking to your sponsor, to your team, and you will be uh, assuming things not for granted. There should be some working or some thought process behind your assumptions, because obviously if your assumptions go wrong, and if they go wrong in such a drastic fashion, like as you mentioned that your 80%, 70% assumptions are going wrong, then it is obviously a big challenge for your project. So it should not be happening like this. Maybe one, two assumptions can go wrong, but if more than 80% are going wrong, then obviously your entire process was not correct. Okay.
I have two questions. One about risks. Once we have identified the risks, and usually the risks are being identified with the help of the whole project team. Once we have identified the risks, uh, should we mention or highlight these risks to the customer, or the the PMO office, or anybody else, or keep it to ourselves and make plans for it to mitigate the risks?
Uh, Obviously, whenever you identify a risk, you plan for it, and it's uh, and you what PMI suggests, or what we should be doing, that we should be communicating it appropriately. Obviously, you will not be keeping it to yourself or only. We should be informing our project team, uh, PMO as well, because if let's say we have a controlling or directive kind of PMO, and they are governing the project, so then they should be notified about the risk, what kind of impact it could have on the project, uh, and what mitigation or what rectification or what strategies you have in place to rectify or deal with the risk if it happens, and communicating the risk to your customer stakeholders is also important, because they will be the directly impacted by the deliverable of your project. However, obviously, dealing with outside or your stakeholder, you should be doing this very carefully, uh, and you should be having some designated person, uh, maybe the project manager or the sponsor, depending on the nature of the stakeholder, and you communicate with the customer or stakeholder, but uh, you will not be telling them only one part of the thing, that okay, this risk can happen. You will be telling them your entire plan. Okay, this is the risk that can happen, and this is how we are going to monitor it. and this is how we are going to deal with that risk if it happens, and this is what this will be the outcome that we will be getting after uh, handling the risk as per plan. So your communication should be with all the stakeholders, positive, but in a holistic fashion, because they need to know how you are going to deliver the project and how you are going to deal with those risks. Okay.
The second question is, this all things are we are going to do in initiating phase in project charter, and then these identification of these risks.
No, your high level risk or high level assumptions can also be there in your business case. Obviously, as a project manager, we are not going to make the business case or benefits management plan or the need assessment. These documents or these activities are performed, I think they are pre-project initiation activities. So as a project manager, we are not supposed to do that. They are done by sponsor or your business analysts. They do the prepare these documents, but in these documents, you also have your high level risks and maybe some high level assumptions as well. They are part of those documents as well. And you as a project manager, and obviously in project charter, we also have the high level risk, high level assumptions. They are also mentioned in the project charter. And when we as project manager start doing the project work, we start from planning everything. So at that time, we leverage or we take advantage of those documents. We see, okay, these are the high level risks that are identified. These are the high level assumptions. And then we take those forward. And as we start making our plans, we see some more assumptions coming up, some more risks are being identified. So we keep updating those assumptions log and our risk register and even our stakeholder register as well as we move with our project.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yes, Pina, you have some question.
Yeah. Uh, how often should we identify those risks? Like, can they occur in every phase of the project, or if we have resolved a risk or identified it, worked upon it, the other one can occur right after it? I mean, shall it be a continuous exercise in the project life cycle, or at some specific time the risk can be addressed and that's it?
No, risk identification is not a one-time activity. It is or it should be an ongoing process throughout our project life cycle. Uh, we keep as we move forward, we move forward with our project plans, the different phases. We keep monitoring the risks that we have identified, and if any risk that triggers, we implement the plan and. Uh, And obviously, when we implement some plan or we have a mitigation, let's say we are trying to mitigate some risk or deal with some risk, and based on that mitigation plan, there is something we might see that okay, this is what we are planning for, but if we do this, then there is a secondary risk associated as well. So we need to document that as well. Uh, and as we to give you a short answer, this is not a one-time activity. We have to keep doing it continuously throughout our project as we keep moving with our different phases of our project. Okay.
Thank you.
And as your question was, you can also schedule have some periodic risk assessment meetings as well. Maybe at certain project milestones or if any one of you remember, we talked about the meetings in the last session, where we discussed that meetings are not aimed at getting a status reports. Risk is a main topic at team meetings, where the team sits and they discuss about okay, maybe we are foreseeing this kind of risk, and then you keep talking about it and how you are going to deal with those risks. So yes, you can have certain milestones where you can, or certain periodic risk assessment meetings where you can discuss risks at regular intervals. Okay. Any other question, or will we move forward with this?
This risk planning or this risk identification, it is less involved in agile in the start. I think it is because these are incremental jobs, and you have to uh, plan minimum, and so you have to identify the risks also on minimum level. While in the predictive style, you have to plan fully or comprehensively, and you have to maintain the you have to find or identify all the risks and plan for it. Am I right?
Uh, some part of it is right and some is not. Actually, in Agile, you are right when you say that it is generally a continuous kind of, and it is iterative compared to traditional or the predictive project management. But Agile is designed to accommodate, as we discussed, that Agile is more to what you can say, it's more towards adapting change and dealing with uncertainty. And obviously, in that case, it is naturally encompassing regular risk identification, because when you keep uh, you do continuous iterations, you deliver something, then you discuss about it, you engage with your customers a lot. So risk identification becomes, as with other processes, it becomes a continuous kind of process in Agile as well. And since we have not discussed Agile as yet, but in Agile we have a daily stand-up meeting where the development team, the team that is doing the work on the project, they daily have a, let's say, 15-minute meeting in the morning, where everyone discusses what they have done yesterday, what they are going to do today, and is there any issue or any blocker there that is hampering their progress. So so risk identification becomes inherent when you do daily stand-up. So you can talk, you can have when you are discussing about those things. So risk identification is becoming a regular kind of practice there. Then once you are done with your one iteration of let's say 2 to 4 weeks, then you do a retrospective. Some of the terminology may be new to you, but obviously we will discuss more about these when we talk about agile. So retrospective is kind of a lesson learned kind of activity. In predictive, the lessons learned activity is or the discussion about this is generally done at the end of a phase or end of the project. But in Agile, the retrospective is done after each iteration. So again, in that setting, you also talk about risk. Uh, and in Agile, one advantage that we have, since as you rightly mentioned, that predictive is for a longer period, so maybe you need to uh, the risk identification is done more holistically at the start, and to keeping monitoring it. In Agile, we have short cycles, so we plan for 2 to 4 weeks of work. So obviously, in that case, risks are often smaller, and you can contain them within each cycle. And also in Agile, you are doing adaptive planning. as per the requirement or as per the changes. So it inherently reduces the risk identification and or risk element from your project. So I hope you got your answer.
Yes, thank you.
Actually, I have one problem that it's not possible for me to give short answers. I don't know whether you guys like it or not. Uh, so, okay. So, I think we talked about this already. As important it is to know the difference between the assumption and risk. Similarly, it is important to understand what is the difference between risk, issue, and constraint. Uh, Risk is something, as we talked about, that is an uncertain event or condition that if it occurs, that it can impact your project positively or negatively. It is something that we foresee. It is something that can happen. It has not happened as yet. So that is an issue. It is something uncertain. It may or may not occur, and you need to be proactive about risk. You need to identify it. You need to have a plan how to deal with it. uh, Issue is something that has already happened. It is something that is at hand, and you need to uh, deal with it. It's kind of a reactive kind of thing. Something has happened, and yeah, you need to react for it, and you need to apply some corrective measures. uh, Another example for the telecom guys, uh, we do preventive maintenance to make sure that our equipment keeps running in a proper manner. We So you can take it as a risk mitigation or risk aversion thing, that you do it proactively. You do preventive maintenance to reduce the risk of something getting damaged, and corrective maintenance is done when you have some malfunction in any of the equipment. So this is what the difference between a risk and an issue. And you should understand this very clearly, because you may find 1 2 question in the exam giving you a scenario and asking you whether it is a risk or an issue, and uh, how you are going to deal with it. And constraint, I would like someone from you to tell me what is a constraint, because we talked about it already in the last session, although the definition is already written here. Anyone? Yes, Hassan, you have a question?
No, no, I'm as you have asked the question, so I'm
Yeah, please go ahead.
I think constraint is like the virus outbreak in 2021. It was not in any risks identification or risk registers as the virus outbreak, and it halted everything, every projects, all the ongoing projects were halted. So that was a constraint. Am I right?
That was an issue.
Okay.
What were the constraints that we talked about? What is a constraint? Constraint is something that limits your options or restrict you during your project. We talked about 6 constraints in the last session. It is
That was
that you cannot impact, that you cannot change. It's not under your control, and you need to remain within the limits of those constraints to deliver accordingly.
I think it was the cost, time, and
Yes, exactly. It was cost, schedule, quality,
yes,
scope,
exactly. That was the constraints.
risks, resources. Okay. So those were the and risk can also be a constraint, because you need to obviously, if a but for the sake of this discussion, let's not discuss about it risk, because it may confuse you. But constraint is something that is not under your control, and you are restricted by it, because if you have a cost constraint, then obviously maybe you cannot have the required or the required quality of resources that you want, or maybe you cannot deliver the scope in too much fancy. You cannot do fancy kind of things with the, your in your scope when you are planning for your scope, and one constraint may affect on your other constraint. If you have resource related constraints, so maybe you cannot deliver on time. You cannot deliver the required amount of quality with the required kind of quality. So this is what constraint is all about. So just to remember, risk is something that can happen, and if it happens, it can impact your project positive, negative. If issue is something that has already happened, something bad has happened, and you now need to deal with it in a reactive manner. Okay, so these were the few things, and once as we move forward, obviously we need to have a project vision statement. This is something that is created by normally by your project sponsor or initiator, and it tells about the strategic direction and overall goal that the project is trying to achieve, and you need to remain aligned with it throughout your project. So now comes the project charter. Since we have the business case ready, the benefits management plan ready, and we have got the approval against the business case. So now comes the main document, the project charter. The project charter is the document. Although this is also not prepared by the project manager. This is again a document that is prepared by your sponsor or business analyst, uh, and it officially authorizes the existence of any project. It tells all the stakeholders, okay, this project is now approved, and this is what who this is the guy who is the project manager who is going to deliver that project. So basically, project manager authorizes you or introduces you or gives you the authority as a project manager to utilize the organizational resources to carry out your project activities and deliver the project as per the business case, as per the benefits management plan, and aligned with your project vision statement. So, as we discussed that there are certain purposes what uh, a project charter is for. It recognizes or tells everyone about that. Okay, this project is now exists, and it is going to deliver certain kind of benefits. It tells about your authority as a project manager. Major stakeholders are already aligned or committed to the project because they are the ones like your sponsor or maybe your board of directors. They were the ones who approved the business case and approved the project charter. So now they are aligned or committed to the project. It has the summary of goals, objectives, and purpose that the project is trying to achieve or should achieve. What are the initial constraints or the details of the project? How much budget the approval project has? What kind of scope the project will be delivering? What are high-level risk assumptions? What are the milestones at which the organization or the customer is going to get the deliverables? Uh, it will have a list of high level or major project stakeholders, which you as a project manager will use going forward to plan your scope, budget, and all the other plans. We will discuss about these later. And it may also define the high level role responsibilities of major project stakeholders. And this is again a summarized thing of summary of what major components can be there in the project manager project charter, where we discussed these already. And this is how just a sample. This is how a project charter may look like. Uh, they, they can be several different types of it. This is just an example. Some companies use a very elaborate one. Some may not be using it, or you can have different versions of it. But this is just an example, and the major components are already we already discussed about these. So once you have the project charter ready, you are assigned as a project manager. So this is one of this is so now you can start your project work. So what as a project manager you will be doing, the first thing that you will be doing is obviously not the kickoff meeting. The first process we will talk about it in the maybe after the break when we move to the stakeholder. The first step, once you are assigned as the project manager, so the first step that you will be doing is anyone, what should be you now? Let's assume you are assigned as a project manager. You have all these components already available. You have referred the project charter, and you know what is the purpose of the project, what are the requirements, who are the high level stakeholders, uh, what will be your acceptance criteria, and stuff like that, how much budget you have. So what first step now you will be taking as a project manager? Now you have to kick off the project, you start the project. So what you will be doing?
Kickoff meeting.
Kickoff meeting is not the answer.
Scope definition. Scope document. First to prepare scope document.
You read this yellow highlighted part, and then maybe you can share your feedback. I'm not expecting any right answer here. Just to initiate the thought process, because this will be something maybe you remember when you are done with this. Or what will be the first step that you will be doing if anyone has gone through those process scopes or knowledge area chart? Maybe you can remember something from there. Okay, so once you have your project charter, so ideally the first thing that we as a project manager should be doing is to uh, uh, identify our stakeholders, or because in project charter or the business case we have a very high level list of stakeholders. There may be many other stakeholders there, so it's important to identify those stakeholders, engage with them, and then because what we are trying to achieve, we have a very high level scope given. Okay, this is what we need to deliver. But now as a project manager we need to prepare our scope, and based on that scope we have to prepare our budget, our procurements, our quality management plan, and everything. We need to identify the risks, how we are going to deal with the risks, and every other step that we need to do. For that, we need to have a high level scope. We need to have a detailed scope that we will be preparing as a project manager. So for that scope, who we are going to talk to? We are going to deal with our or talk to our stakeholders about that. We need to gather their requirements, their expectations, uh, and for that we need to identify all the stakeholders, as many stakeholders as we can, because then we once we identify the stakeholders, we assess our stakeholders, only then we can gather requirements from them. Because what will happen if we miss any stakeholder uh, during our at the start, and and now we are, let's say, into the execution state, or maybe we have made all the plan, and this is something that usually happens, uh, that we miss some stakeholder and they are identified later on, and then it becomes a problem, because now maybe you have to modify your plans, or modify your overall scope as well. So this is very important, that after getting initiating the project, getting the project, you need to identify all your stakeholders, and then you need to engage with them to move forward with your planning process. Okay.
Okay.
So, and kickoff meeting is usually normally done when we have all the plans ready, and uh, we are ready for the execution. And before the starting the execution, we do the kickoff meeting, so everyone is aligned, or they have a clear understanding uh, what we are trying to achieve, what is our scope, who will be responsible for what, and this is usually to align all our stakeholders, including our team and our sponsor, towards the project mission, whatever we are trying to achieve. So, what kind of leadership style as a project manager you should be having when you are going delivering your project? So, what PMI is promoting, that you will be adopting a servant leader kind of model, where you carry food and water for your team. You always keep your team first. You care for them. You provide growth opportunities for them. You remove impediments or issues or blockers that they might be facing. You inspire them. You train them, and you can say that you are always there for your team to support them, um, so that they can deliver whatever uh, task they have in hand, or whatever goal you are trying to achieve. So this is what a servant leader is all about. And there are certain characteristics that servant leader has, that you need to show empathy. Empathy is what you need to understand feelings of others and your own feeling, how you deal, and then accordingly you deal with the situation. You should have a very good, you should be an active listener. Uh, you uh, uh, you need to understand the perspective of others. Uh, you need to be have a very good kind of situational and self-awareness. You need to have an influential kind of personality, where you can persuade people or influence others uh, in a more human kind of way, rather than you using your authority, uh, mm, yeah, or imposing your authority on people. You need to persuade people or influence them, so they are willing to do the job by heart, rather than they are under pressure, because you are, since you are a project manager, you are at a high level of authority. So this is not a characteristic of a servant leader, to utilize your position to force people to do things. And you need to commit, or you need to have an uh, aim to grow your people. You need to you train them, educate them, and you need to have or you build a cohesive kind of team that is aligned towards the overarching goal that you are trying to achieve. So this is what this is what a kind of a mindset you have as a servant leader. Uh, and this mindset, or these characteristics, you should be remembering at least for your exam, because in scenarios, uh, you need to apply this servant leader mindset when you are answering or you are selecting the uh, choice from the given ones. And obviously, when you will be doing your project, so you need to have some kind of a management information system that you will be using to uh, throughout your project. Uh, it can be in the form of maybe some people or projects do projects in Excel only. Some use Microsoft Project and some other software as well, Jira, Asana. There are many things, but again, uh, all these are your project management information systems, and it whatever suits your requirement or your organizational culture or organizational standards, so you can go for it. And obviously, a project management system is all about information processing. It may help you in taking decisions. You communicate your report through it to your stakeholders, and you track and your project on using your project management information system. And there are some other things that we are discussing at the start, because it's better to discuss these earlier at the start, because to have a understanding as we move forward. Uh, so we have three kinds of obviously when we are doing project work. So uh, there are some there is we need to we gather a lot of work performance, and we need to obviously report that work performance to our stakeholders and our sponsor, and even uh, as a project manager or project team, we need to refer to that as well. So work performance is has three things in it. The first one is work performance data, which is WPD. The second one is work performance information, and the third one is work performance report. So before I discuss these, I would like to ask one question from everyone, that if anyone can tell me that what is the difference between data and information? Anyone?
Yes, I would look at data as the raw aspect of what you've collected, and once that is processed, it now becomes information.
Okay, no, anyone? Anyone else?
Full data, exactly. Data, while we collect the data, there is no meaningful aspect in that. There are no nothing from where we can direct someone to do, or we can highlight something from that. But information is meaningful, and which is as per our requirement or what we are looking for in the data. Information is telling us that thing.
Good. Okay, good to know that you guys have this clarity already in mind, because I have seen people who mix both these things. Yes, data is the raw form, and information is something when you process the data, and then that becomes information. So when we are we have planned our project. Now, once we go into the execution phase, so here we start gathering data, which is called work performance data. Okay, I have delivered 10 cars. We have produced 10 cars. We have utilized this much budget. Uh, we have used this many dates. What is all this? This is your work performance data. And once we are uh, uh, in our then we process it. It we How we process it depend based on our initial plan and what we are getting from the execution phases. So we do the plan versus actual kind of analysis, and then that becomes information. Okay, this is what I was trying. I had planned earlier, but this is what is actually happening. And when we compare this, so that becomes our information, and then we summarize it and share it with our management. So that becomes our work performance report that we share with our stakeholders. So you guys already told me about this, that work performance data or WPD is the raw measurements, and I already gave you the example that it took it took 10 hours. 100 we bought 100 computers and stuff like that. So this is all raw data. This is not going to tell you anything about your project, where we are standing in terms of our plan. So we need to convert this raw information into or raw data into something more meaningful. So how we do it? uh, we analyze it and understand it, we compare it with our plan. So then it becomes our information. An example can be, okay, uh, we planned, we had a, let's say we had a budget of 100, let's say $100,000, and we have consumed, let's say 120,000. So now this can tell me that I am 20% above my budget. Let's say I am in, let's say quarter 1. At till quarter 1, I had the budget, or the plan was to utilize $100,000, but at the end of Q1, I have already utilized 120,000. So it means I am 20% over budget. So this is now an information. Now I can use this information to see where things went wrong, or maybe where we need to, or what we need to address to make sure that at the end of our project we remain on track. And work performance report is, it tells you about the health of your project. You integrate your information and then you present it to your management to share over the overall progress of your project. So this is just an illustration of what we discussed, that work performance data comes from direct and managed project work. And as we are in the monitoring controlling phase, so there from there we are having our work performance information, and when we convert that into something in a short form for our stakeholder reporting, so that becomes our work performance report. So this was all about the fundamentals part. So if you guys have any questions that we discussed till now, you can ask, or else we can move to my favorite part, which is the quiz. Shall we move to the quiz?
Yes,
Yes,
please.
sure.
Okay.
Yes, sure.
So try to take only 1 minute for each question and give your answer, the choice number in the comment box, and write it like this. Let's say, because it 1, and what, let's say A is the right answer, so write it like this in the comment box. Okay, so this is the first question.
In just a minute, I am unable to find the.
What? The comment box?
Yeah, I'm using actually mobile.
Okay, so Usually it
fine.
is
I
on
found it. I found it.
found it. Okay.
I found it.
Okay. Okay, so three C's and two B's. So C is the right answer because although teamwork, collaboration, transparency, everything is important, but since agile methodology is iterative and incremental both, and what we are, it is mainly aimed at continuous improvement mindset, which is very essential to adapting to changing requirements. We learn from the iterations, we improve the product and our process over time as we move forward with our iterations. Uh, Continuous improvement is what allows agile teams to evolve and enhance their work, their product, their processes, and their performance continuously. Okay, so the guys who gave B, I hope you are. It is okay now, or you understand that why C is the right choice. Let's move to the second one. Yes, B is the right answer because before escalation or seeking any assistance or revising the project schedule, you as a project manager should be using your negotiation or influencing skills to uh, get the resources from the functional manager. So uh, you need to deal it, try to deal it from your side first, and then maybe if you are unable, then you can seek assistance from PMO or your sponsor if needed. Okay, so this is the third one. Maria Fabulas. Okay, all right. So C is the right answer for this question, because what happens in balance metrics? In balance metrics, both the project manager and function manager, they share authority in the 50-50 authority. So to resolve the conflicts, since the first step should be, you as a project manager should be, you should try to deal it on your own before moving to any drastic kind of steps like asking for senior management to decide on resource allocation, or dividing the resources equally, because this is something that is not a very good approach, because you divide the resources equally, but what will happen to the resource? The actual conflict is maybe happening because uh, they are competing for the same resource. So it is the resource that maybe they both need. So dividing the resources equally will also not be beneficial in this scenario. But if they have regular communication, they and among or in between both of them, and they use negotiation tactics, so then adopting this approach, or and this is the only collaborative approach. As you can see, what the question is asking, what collaborative approach? You need to read the question carefully as well. The question is asking about what collaborative approach, and the only collaborative approach, or the option that is suggesting towards that, is option C, where they need to regularly communicate and negotiate. All right. So this is the fourth one. Okay, so basically we had three types of PMOs that we discussed: directive, controlling, and supportive. These are the only three PMO types, uh, and the right answer for this is A, directive PMO, because directive PMO is generally they take this centralized role in project management, and it is the one that is actively involved in strategic decision making. It has a higher degree of control over project management practices, uh, risk management, and they directive PMO aligns with ensure that the project is aligned with organizational objectives. Uh, Controlling PMO is on a middle kind of authority level, as we discussed last time, that they are there to ensure that you are following, as a project manager, you are following all the uh, organizational policies, you are following maybe any regulatory requirements that are there, and they may be occasionally doing audit of your project, but they are not directly involved or directly managing your project. So for this reason, and for the scenario that is presented here, that the PMO is playing a central role in aligning project with organizational objectives, and they are actively involved in project oversight and everything related to the project. So that's why it is a directive kind of PM. Okay, so this is the fifth one. Now this will become easy after the explanation of the previous question. What we have here, C. Yes, C is the right answer because supportive PMO is there to provide templates, sharing best practices, and uh, they are there to gather the knowledge or sharing knowledge among project managers or facilitate collaborations. And so as they have the lowest kind of authority in all the three PMOs, and they are only there to support and provide you with templates and stuff like that. So yes, C is the right answer. So let's do, I think, two more questions. This is the sixth one. Okay, so this is something, the hint was already there in the question as well. The team is assuming that this factor will happen based on historical data, and it can influence the project positively if it occurs. But what is the catch here? There is no specific plan in place to address it if it does not occur. Okay, so this is highlighting towards an assumption, because risk is something that you see that it may happen or it may not happen, but if it happens, it can impact your project both positively and negatively. This is one thing. You always have a, or you should have a plan for it. For every risk that you have identified, you always plan for it, how you will be going to deal with it. You keep monitoring it. So based on this, assumption is the right answer. Constraint is not the right answer here, because anyone who can tell me why constraint is not the right answer, especially the ones who have given the right answer, like you have only one right answer, SM.
Yes, it
Actually,
cannot be a constraint. It cannot be a constraint, risk or issue because it never happened currently.
and also because we are talking
Constraint
about some
which
and because we are also talking about some historical data, that the team assumed that this factor will happen based on historical data. So this is something that they are assuming. Constraint is something different that limits your options, or you cannot do anything about it. So that's why constraint is also not the right choice for this, and assumption is the right answer. I hope the guys who gave the wrong answer now know why B is the right choice. Okay, so this is the last one for this topic. Meena, you are trying to say something?
No, please, Imran, it was just an incident.
Okay, so this is the sixth one. Yes, yes, D is the right answer. This is an issue. So I think I don't need to explain this since everybody got the right answer. Okay. All right, so this is it for this topic. Now, I think if you guys want, we can take a 10 minutes break, and then we can start with the second topic, which is the stakeholders. Shall we take the break or we
yes,
continue with this topic?
yes, yes, we have to take a break. 10 minutes, please. Thank you.
Okay, let's take a 10-minute break and see you after 10 minutes, and then we'll start the stakeholder topic.